So, Sammy, tell me, what makes your mind bloom?
Yes. So when I first heard this question, I really just what came to mind at first was really just like what excites me the most, and what really, sort of drags me out of bed every day. And of course, that's the one thing that I focus on is, passion and something that, sort of like makes you hop out of bed every single morning. But I think that the one thing in general that really makes my mind bloom is really just at least for right now, in the time we're in right now, is the capacity to which social media can really allow you to spread knowledge and research on many different topics. I think, whether it's just like cancer awareness, or it's mental health awareness, or just like minority awareness, whatever it is. Like, I feel like right now, especially, Instagram is so hot with all these different graphics, all these different posts on different information about different people who we may have never even heard about.
I agree. I am so positively surprised with social media. I used to have my just personal account, and I'd follow J Lo and Jennifer Aniston, my girls, and that was fun. But I was like, I really, I don't really get what all the buzz is about, and now I do.
Yeah.
I really, yeah, and you say the same. I really am starting to belong to this community of people who want to raise awareness for this and that, and want to expose just bad things, and want to be an ally for the good things, at least for the things, the causes we believe are good. And wow, it's amazing. Yeah. Awesome. I'm glad we share that interest. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're a millennial, I guess we can say that, right? And you're a fellow podcaster, and you're an advocate for mental health.
Mhm.
And I don't know how you do all of this at such an early age. I'm so proud. It's unbelievable. So tell me a little bit more about you, Sammi Reyes, and what's going on. What is this all about?
Yeah, for sure. So I think in more you know, uh better terms, I think people would call me a Gen Z. I think, I'm sort of right after the millennial age, but in my soul, I'm more of an old soul, so I do feel like a millennial. So you're right on track with that one. But I think for me, really, all of my life, I've been very multi-passionate, which means basically I have a lot of passions, but with that, I can combine them all into one thing or two things that really I can pursue. So currently, it's like I run Fashion Your Passion podcast. I go out and speak across the country to different high schools about, mindset, creating your dream life, finding your passion. I have a bunch of social media marketing clients, where I run their social medias for them. Um, I, work at a podcast PR agency and help clients, find podcast guests and have podcast, people come on. And then I'm also a college student. I'm, majoring in a mix of journalism, counseling, and psychology.
Wow.
And I think that for me, it's just so much fun because I personally don't like to do one thing for, long periods of time. I like to dabble around in little different things. So it's great because in the morning I go to school, I, learn about journalism and counseling or whatever. Then after school, I go over to the PR agency and I work on, clients there. Then after that, I go back to, my own office, and I work on, social media marketing, social media planning for my other clients, and then I'll, record a podcast here and there and, work on my own marketing stuff like that. So I think it's, you know, I think I was talking to someone yesterday on a different podcast, and I think the one thing that I've learned is that if everything that I'm doing, no matter how many things it is, if I love it, I can do all of them at the same time, and I think that it's just so important to start to integrate more things into your day, your week, your month, whatever it is that you fall in love with. For me, I knew I loved to talk. I knew I loved to, hear other people's stories as well. So I started speaking, I started podcasting, and it's something that gets me out of bed every single morning. Even though I don't, have a podcast interview every single day, I know that someone out there is listening to some episode of the podcast, or someone out there, is prepping for our interview or whatever it is. I think that's something that, allows me to do everything that I'm doing.
Yeah. And it's the beautiful thing of this gig economy, I think, is that we are doing it out of passion.
Mm-hmm.
and love versus the grind of the 9 to 5,
Yeah.
going to work every day to work for someone else and for an ideal that is not ours. And this is beautiful and so open. It just, your mind explodes. It's amazing. I'm at a loss for words, I guess. It's so great. I'm very new at this, so
No,
I'm still
no, for
discovering
sure.
everything. um because before the pandemic I had a 9 to 5. So
Yeah.
yeah. So what drew you specifically to mental health and the youth, I guess, is that even a word anymore? Does
Mm-hmm.
that date me as an old person? Why mental health and this community in particular?
Yeah, for sure. So like I mentioned before, I part of my major in school is counseling and school psychology and just run regular psychology in general, with an emphasis on abnormal psych, which is, mental health, mental illnesses, all those fun stuff like
Yeah.
that. And I mean, for me personally, what it's been, I mean, I've had my own slew of mental health things. I've had, I'm continuing on my mental health journey,
Mm.
but I think that I've always been sort of big giver. From the age of 9, I wanted to be a teacher, and I knew that I wanted to be a teacher because my great grandmother was a teacher, and my mom was a teacher, and my teachers just literally they every single year just saved my life in one way or another. And I knew that if I wanted to, if I wanted to be that person, and so I was like, okay, great, I can, I know how to teach. Like I taught, like I tutored kids in middle school and high school, whatever. I was like, this is perfect. And then a few years ago, it was the middle of middle school, I started to feel off and I didn't know what was up. I had taken a mental health week, I called it, from track, and I just came home every single day, sat on the couch, watched television until 8 p.m. from 3 to 8, and then started my homework at 8 p.m. and a scramble to get it done for the next day.
Mm.
And I knew this wasn't like me because in the years previous, I would get an assignment. First thing I would do is finish it, and then I'd be done. I wouldn't have any homework, for the rest of the day. So I knew this is different, and I sort of went with that, sort of feeling for about 2 years. I just like let it happen. I just tried to figure out, what I just needed to do to get by. It was really just survival mode was I was in set in,
Mm.
and in high school, I got into high school, and it was sort of the same thing. I remember freshman year, I told one of my teachers, I was like, I feel like I'm drowning, and I don't know how to get my head above water. Um, and it just sort of I just had to figure it all out. I didn't know what was up with me. And then in 10th grade, my lovely, lovely English teacher, Mrs. Stewart, she assigned us a project where we had to sort of come up with a question based off of the literature we had read throughout the year, and find an answer to that question. So we had read One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and it's all about this guy who gets admitted into a psych ward and his experience in the psych ward. And so I decided to, have that as my key piece of literature. And I asked the question of why do teens suffer with mental illness? How does it affect their, kids, community, and stuff like that? And what can we do to sort of, redraw the line to what we know about and the stigma of what we know about? And that sort of meshed, my own personal curiosities about my own life with my giving hand. And in that research, you know, I found out sort of what was wrong with me, and also I found out a bunch of, sort of the different things that are put on teens or put on young kids, that may impact their mental health. And sort of from there, I just ran with it, and I realized, I think, in the past 3-4 months, I realized how important my own mental health story was, and I knew I needed to sort of speak about it more. And so a lot of the podcasts that I've been on currently have been about my mental health journey more than, different topics I can speak on, like passion and dream life and stuff like that, because what really started this all, the whole speaking and podcast thing was in senior year, it was still the same. I still was feeling super anxious. I was still feeling super, super sad. And one day my public speaking teacher, it was because she was my last teacher of the day. One day I went to her and I was like, I'm so scared to attend this, whatever event it was. Cause I think, because there's a huge trigger for me there. And she was like, Sammy, like, how do we, sort of eliminate or like minimize those triggers? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I've been living with this for so long. Like, I didn't know what to do. And she told me, she was like, I want to be able to help you. You know, like we need to figure out a plan on how we can sort of minimize these triggers and how you can sort of live your life a little bit better. And from there, like it sounds so like cliche, but from there, like my life just went, complete 180, and everything just sort of in an instant just like got put together. And yes, it's been a battle since then, and I'm still, sort of figuring everything out, but it's been so much better since then. And I think that also that little piece of me where, one of my teachers pretty much saved my life, and she's been a mentor since then, for the past year, 2 years and a half now. And I think that was the moment where I was like, I just need to share what I've learned with the world. I need to share this because if no one else is going to, and having a teen's perspective to other teens, like that's something special. That's not what you hear every day. And I was also listening to podcasts like Rachel Hollis and Ed Milet and Lewis Howes, and I was like, no one else my age listens to this stuff. And if I can understand it and listen to it and then take it and rewire it that way other teens can understand it too, that's gold. Like that is what I need to do. And so I told my public speaking teacher, I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And she's like, you need to go for it and just don't stop. And I was like, okay, fine. And from there, like I've just been, a mix of so many different things that I've been pursuing, but all in the idea to help teens sort of not suffer in the way that I've suffered.